This is week 4?
5. Yeah. Now, last week we talked about interviewing. Today we're going to talk about networking. And I have your packets for you for next week. We're going to do mock interviewing. Or no, 2 weeks from now. Sorry, not next week. 2 weeks. Okay. All right. So we are in week 5, and our topic is networking today. But let's take a minute and go over this packet that I just gave you that is a preparation packet for the mock interviewing, okay? I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but just kind of point out a few things. This first page down at the bottom lets you know, well, at the top, first of all, this is what I would like for you to bring, what's listed above the picture here, okay? Includes a copy of your resume, cover letter that is pointed toward a job you would like to have. So if you go back in the first couple sections in your binder, you could look up, go to ONET Online. Remember that one? onetonline.org. And if you go all the way to the bottom of the page, you'll go to the USA Job Bank, and you can look up for California and pull, when that website comes up, you could pull some jobs off of there. So what's a job title you might look for a job under, Jerome? Okay. What would you look under, Ricky? Okay. So on the ONET Online, at the very top of the web page that comes up, there's that section at the top that's alternative job titles. So you'll see, because both of you guys gave some different ideas, right? And so you can look at those alternative job titles and kind of cruise through, then go all the way to the bottom of that page and click on California, and then look through the jobs that you find in your geographic area and pick at least one that you will bring with you to the mock interview practice so that I can look at and know what you're thinking of. Okay? All right. And dress for success. Dress on this mock interview day, which is 2 weeks from today. Dress the way that you feel like you would dress to go to an interview, okay? And you don't have to stay that way the whole day while you're at school, but do you like to wear a tie? No. You had your tie on the other day. Do you like wearing a tie? Okay, you're cool either way, right? All right. So at the bottom of page 1 here on this packet, it tells you what's contained in this packet. So the first page, if you turn to page 2, you'll see this rubric that we will use for feedback. And these are the things that I'll be giving you some feedback about. And then for you guys, I'll each have a feedback sheet that you will observe the other person while they're doing their mock interview and put some feedback on that sheet, okay? So we call this gentle constructive criticism, okay? And then on page 3, I just like to sort of think of an interview as a 5-part process. And so the next couple of pages talk about the different parts of this process. The first part here is before the interview, getting ready. And then turning to page 4, part 2 is like the start of your interview, which we talked about last week. We did the professional greetings, etc. So getting your interview going. And then in the middle here is the middle of the interview. Here's kind of the do's and don'ts we talked about before. And then the end of the interview. That's like closing the sale, right? Letting them know that you're interested in the job, making sure that if there's something in particular you wanted them to know about you, that you've taken the time and you've had the chance to tell them that. And then the last part's the follow-up. That's your thank you, email, voicemail, handwritten note, whatever you would like. So on page 5, I just want to draw your attention to the bottom part of that page in particular, those 2 boxes. The one on the left says, put yourself in the shoes of the interviewer. What if you were the interviewer? You were interviewing someone. What would you be having in the back of your mind? What would you be thinking about? One, you'd think like, can this person really do this job? And will they show up every day and do this job? And will they get along with the people that are already here? So if you, as the interviewee, keep in the back of your mind, that's what this interviewer is trying to decide while they talk to me, then that can help you really focus in on your answers and making sure that you're directing your answers to them, etc. And then in the box over here on the right side on page 5, it says why people aren't hired. So this is just a list of sort of the most common things. And the first one says poor personal appearance. So we want to remember that we have what? One chance to make a good first impression. And within about how many seconds does that impression start forming? Yeah, just the first glance, right? Right away, immediately. So, and then the next one is the inability to communicate clearly, poor voice and grammar. So the good news of that one is that you're going through all of this process here with the workshops and stuff to help you get ready for interviewing. And you can practice your questions and answers. You can practice all parts of this. So to not be able to communicate clearly what you want to tell, you can overcome that by making sure that you take the time to practice. And so doing this mock interview is just, it's like an icebreaker, breaking through this process. And once we do the mock interview, if there's anything else you want to practice, you want to keep working at it, then just let me know and we set up time and we'll do that, okay? The other thing I want to tell you is that in interview questions, if there's some sort of question or topic that you're unsure of how to handle, how to answer it in the interview, let me know in advance and I'll make sure that we have a question about that so we can work on that during the mock interview. Or we can even work on it before the mock interview so you can practice it, okay? Some people have, some people have a hard time talking about accomplishments in jobs. Some people have lost a job and they have a hard time talking about that or knowing what they should say. So anything like that that comes to your mind, let me know beforehand. We can practice it during the mock interview and we can keep working on it after. So also next is lack of planning for a career. So if you're out interviewing for a job, it's pretty easy for whoever is interviewing you to say, like, where do you see yourself 3 years from now? You start in a job like this, or you start doing this kind of work, where do you see yourself in 3 years? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? How do you answer that? Got to have an answer for it, okay? Next, lack of enthusiasm and confidence in the interview. It is so important to have the knowledge, obviously, to back up what you're interviewing for and applying for. But you could have 2 people who are similarly qualified, whether it's through their education and their work experience. But the person who has the enthusiasm and shows that and shows confidence in themselves is typically the one that's going to get the job offer. So this is a chance just to do some mock interview to really practice, like, how does a person show enthusiasm? What are some ways that we show that when we're talking to people? Yep, smiling. Another one is having questions to ask. That shows like real enthusiasm for the job because you want to find out more than maybe our traditional topics that might be talked about in an interview. How else can you show enthusiasm? Yep, that's our, verbal and nonverbal communication. We want those to match up. How do we show confidence when we go in? Yes, posture is always on the top of my list. The good posture, sitting up, in the chair, not real comfy, too comfy, not kind of nervous, but being comfortable in your chair, sitting up. Yep, yep, yep. All right, next is condemning past employers. Never want to say something bad about, previous boss, previous company, previous work, previous coworker, nothing. If you have, like actually right now, there is a student that we're working on this with. She's not that we're working on her condemning past employers, but she has some past work experience that had some hard things happen in it. So we're working on how she can really answer questions about that without saying anything negative about, a past boss or coworker situation. So if you find yourself in that sort of situation, then let me know about that if you want to work specifically on that. Next is failure to look the interviewer in the eye. So this gets back to our professional, our professional greeting and the enthusiasm and confidence. I think I might have told you guys already, but I'll tell it again. If you have a hard time sometimes looking somebody in the eye when you're talking to them, because when is it easier to look someone in the eye, when you're talking or when they're talking? Usually when they're talking, it's easier. Because sometimes for some people, when we're talking and having to look someone in the eye, it can distract our thoughts, because looking someone in the eye and organizing our thoughts all take place right here in our brain, behind our forehead and behind our eyes. And so sometimes it's sort of like conflicting signals. And so that's why it's easier to have good eye contact when they're talking, but sometimes challenging to have that kind of same kind of eye contact when we're the one doing the talking. So you can always make what's called a peripheral eye contact. You can look like right on the inside of a person's eyes, like right in the corners, or look right up here like on the bridge of their nose, and they just can't really tell that you're still not looking directly in their eyes. Can you tell where I'm looking exactly, Ricky? Okay, I was looking like right here on you. Can you tell exactly where I'm looking, Jerome? I was looking you straight in the eye. See? So you can't really tell. So if you lose your eye contact a little bit when you're talking, then practice that peripheral eye contact. And it takes the pressure, it's called chaos. It takes that little bit of chaos out of your brain. All right, and limp handshake. So we talked about that already, giving no bone crushers, no limp fish handshakes, no girl handshakes, and just a good firm handshake. All right, next page here is just a reminder about behavioral interview questions and how they're structured. They're not asking you, what if this happened, what would you do? They're asking you to tell when this happened, what was it about, what were your actions, and what was the result. Okay, so it could be when you had a conflict at a previous job, when you had a conflict with a coworker, what was the situation? What was the problem? PAR, remember that? PAR, what was the problem or situation or challenge? What were the actions that you took? That's A. And then R, what were the results? So think about using that structure for your answers. And so here are lots of behavioral interview questions here on page 6 and 7 and over onto page 8. And I've broken them out into kind of categories related to soft skills. So you'll see on page 6, there's some questions about teamwork, and then some questions about like your client skills. But who are our clients? If you don't have an external client or customer, you have internal clients and customers. Who are those folks? They're your coworkers. Yeah. All right. And then on page 7, the ability to adapt or be flexible in your work environment. That is a huge one today. It's coming up a lot. Then next is time management skills. And so you'll see all the rest of the topics here on page 7 going on to page 8. And then beginning on page 8 and going on to 9 are interview questions that you can ask at the interview. And they're divided up into categories also. Questions you could ask about the job, and about what sort of training you might get, and then how your performance might be evaluated, and so on. And then on page 10 is just a long list of interview questions, more the standard type of interview questions that you can anticipate. And that's the end. Okay, so this is just your preparation packet. Bring it with you on mock interview day, and I'll remind you next week. And then we'll do it the following week. All right, so now on to our topic for today, which is networking. And first of all, I just want to ask you, who's heard of networking? Who's heard of that concept in job searching? Okay, Ricky, is that kind of a new topic for you, Jerome? Okay, so networking is basically the process of getting out and talking to people in relationship to your job search. So what are some things that you might go out and talk to someone about? You might talk to them because you want to learn more about the field of work you're going into. There's so many things that you might have questions about or wonder about, like what is it really like to do this day in and day out, you know? What kind of people do you usually encounter? What are some of the most regular tasks that I would look forward to doing every day? What are the things that are the most challenging, and how do you handle those things? Another reason to network is that you want to learn more about the current job market that you're in. So there's this thing called the hidden job market. Have you ever heard that term? Hidden job market? That means, where are the jobs? Because there's a lot of jobs that we don't really ever find advertised anywhere. They're not online, they're not in the newspaper, they're not here, they're not there, traditional ways that we think about. And statistically, 75 to 80% of people get their jobs through networking. But what's the way we think of the most commonly these days to look for a job? Online. And statistically, 4% of people looking for a job get a job through an online process. 4%. But it's the one we think of the most, right? Because I don't know, you hear about it the most, so it seems like the most familiar, versus getting out and meeting people and talking to them. And the last is to find those potential job openings, because you know what? Sometimes you're the right person in the right place at the right time. And there wasn't even really an intent of bringing someone else on. This just happened to a student in Stockton. She just told me yesterday. This is not related to what she's going to school for. Nevertheless, it's a good example. She's a student at the Stockton campus, but she is looking for a part-time job while she's going to school. So about, I think she said like about 5 or 6 days ago, she was out at she and her boyfriend went to a wine tasting, and then there's a restaurant attached. And the person that heads the kitchen was in the wine tasting area. And so they just got this conversation going. And I guess her boyfriend's got a little tummy on him. And he said, well, I didn't grow this because she's a bad cook. So, you know, they had like a good rapport going. They were talking. And this student loves to cook. And she got a phone call yesterday morning from the head of the kitchen at that restaurant. They need somebody on the weekends to come in and do all the prep work, you know? And she just called and she said, we just enjoyed meeting you and having a conversation with you, and we need a prep cook. And the first person I thought of was you, from having met you a few days ago. So today well, I think she's probably there right now. I think she's going at 11:30 to have an interview. And the woman on the phone told her already, we already like you, so it's just a question if you're going to like us. So that happens sometimes. So that's like an example of a hidden job, you know? She didn't even know it existed, but she was the right person and she was prepared. So it happens all the time. So another thing that I want to say about networking, this is, and I mean this like so respectfully of everyone, but sometimes we think like, who on earth would I network with? And my answer is anyone that breathes. Okay? They don't have to work in your field. Yet, you know, when you just start your networking, they don't have to be some person in particular or some person at a certain level in a company. It's anybody that breathes you can start with, because you're just trying to gather names and referrals of people that you can go and talk to in your field. And now is a great time to start because it's really so helpful when you get toward graduation and after graduation and you're in your job search that you can go back, not start with, but go back and follow up and connect with people again that you connected with while you were in school, and you're doing this networking, and you're using your networking to also do informational interviews. Do you know what informational interviews are? Where you get out and you talk to people. Your goal is not necessarily going to them about a job. Your goal is going to them to ask them questions about how did you get interested in this line of work? What sort of schooling did you go through? What do you like best doing in this job? What are some tips you have to help me grow my career once I'm working in this field? You know, questions like that. You're going to talk about career development with them. So it's always great to be able, and we'll talk about this a little bit more today, how to keep pursuing with people that you've already had some good conversations with about that. But it's great to be able to go at your graduation and after and say, oh, hey, remember me? We talked last month or a few weeks ago, and I'm just following up with you. So these are the biggest reasons for networking, is to get information related to the field of work you're going into, to find out if this person knows other people that work in your field so you can get in touch and make connections with them, and then to learn about these job openings in that hidden job market, and to just help collect more names of people working that can be helping you in your job search. Because think about it this way, if you are in your job search and it's just you, yourself, and you job searching, right? But you made a list and you got in touch with 30 people. Do you think you know 30 people that you could get in touch with? I myself would probably say no. All right, but we're going to go through the possibilities in a minute. But what if you contacted 30 people and you asked them, each of them, for 2 other people to talk to? Now you're up to how many more people? 60. How many people do you have working on your job search with you now? 90 people. Doesn't that sound unbelievable? But it can happen. Then it's not such a lonely endeavor, is it? All right. So I think I got ahead of myself in talking. So this is about the hidden job market, the jobs that aren't advertised anywhere yet, the jobs that come along because you are that right person in the right place at the right time. So once you start your job search, I encourage you to print up a bunch of resumes and put them in a folder and keep them in your car. And because you just never know when you're going to be in the right place to haul one out and give it to somebody. And, you know, a lot of times we're tempted to like roll out of bed on a Saturday morning and throw on whatever and go out into the world. But maybe you decide, oh, I'm going to be sort of spiffed up a little bit today, because what if I'm out and about doing stuff and I decide that I want to network where I am, and wow, I look a little better today, and that helps to make a good first impression, right? Sorry, I had to take a drink there. Okay. Let's go to the bottom of the page here on page 1, and there are some steps that you can take to help you get set up in your networking. And first is to identify people that you can think of that you can let them know about what you're doing with finishing up schooling and the type of work you want to go into. And in a minute, we're going to start working on a list to help you fill in some names. And then second, even though, you know, networking's like a lot of other stuff, the first few times that you try and do it, it can feel kind of uncomfortable. But each time that you do it and you kind of learn the good things you did and the things that you want to change up a little for the next time, it gets a little more comfortable each time that you practice it. And I always encourage you to, every time you're going to contact somebody, have a goal. What is the goal of my contact with this person? What do you want to accomplish? And then when you turn to page 2, the third step is to make sure that you keep good records of the people that you contact. So in a minute, I'm going to show you a page, a handout in here that you can use to keep those records. and just exactly how you can do that. All right, so let's go on to page 3. And now we're going to take a look at the top of this page. It says network list. This is a listing of different places or types of people that you can network with. In a few minutes, we're going to create a network speech for you to give when you contact people. And so as we go through this list, I would like you to jot down names of people that come to your mind, okay? So at the top of your list here, it says people that you could network with is your immediate family. Well, most of us think that the people, that are immediately around us, they know I'm going to school. But do they really know what you're doing in school and what you want to do with it as a job? Who is it that you might be able to give them a little bit more information and then ask them, hey, do you know anybody? For you two guys, it'd be like, hey, do you know anybody that works with computers? Keep it really general. Always keep your networking really, your speech, you're talking about it, really general. Because if people don't understand, if you get technical and people don't understand what you're talking about, what does their brain do? Yes, because it's like, I have no idea what he's talking about. So everybody knows somebody that works with computers though, right? Yeah. So let's say that you're in a different OSC program here, like you're in bookkeeping. Maybe you want to do a specialty in the bookkeeping area. Maybe you just want to do payroll, but don't ask people, do you know anybody that does payroll? Because people will be like, huh? Just ask them, do you know anybody that does bookkeeping, that keeps the books for a company? The more general you make it, the more people you can include. And then if they want to ask questions or get more specific, then you can let them know more detailed information. So who could you put in that slot? Next would be relatives. Anybody that you know that you think, I haven't really talked to them for a while. Maybe I could give them a call and update them on what's going on, ask them. So do you know anybody that works with computers? Same sort of thing, okay? Next, coworkers. That could include, you see next on the list, former coworkers. Sometimes we think like, oh, that's my past job, that's in the past, I don't go there anymore, But do your coworkers, as far as you know, are they still breathing? Yes. Do they know other people besides you and them knowing each other? Yes. So you can just say, hey, man, I am finishing up school. I'm learning about working with computers. And I'm just getting in touch with some people that I haven't talked to for a while. And so that's why I'm giving you a call, to see if you might know of somebody that works with computers that might be a good person for me to talk with. You don't have to tell them like it's not even about a job, just to talk with them as I start my new career. You can keep it really open, a little bit vague, and because you're just looking for good names and contact numbers to get a hold of people. Okay. So has anybody come to your mind? Coworker, former coworker? Okay, jot their names down so you have something to give yourself off of this paper to get going with. In work that you do now or have done in the past, do you have clients? Did you have clients? Do you have customers? Did you have customers? Can you think of anybody that you can get in touch with that maybe gave you a compliment? Maybe they were a customer and they gave you a compliment. That's a great person to get a hold of. Sometimes I think we don't really so much think about folks like that because, again, it could fall into the category of being from the past. But if you had a good rapport, then you'll have a good rapport when you call them up, and you can just remind them about something that reminds them about you or the work that you did for them or together, and just let them know what you're doing. Because I think most people on earth like to be of assistance. They like to be helpful to other people. And people don't know how they can help us so much. So sometimes we have to tell them how they can help us. We have to give them that suggestion. Okay, next, friends. Would you say, my buddy knows that I'm going to school every day? Okay, but do they really know what you're doing, what you're studying, what you're learning, what you want to do, what you want to do when you grow up after you get done here? Do they really know that? Do they know somebody that works on computers? Sometimes we think our friends, you know, they know I'm going to school, but do they really know what your goal is? How about neighbors? I don't know. In this day and age, we don't usually get to know our neighbors too much, right? If you live in a house with a garage, you drive into your garage and close it and go in the house. You pull out the next day and go down the street. If you live in an apartment, sometimes you don't really, you nod because you recognize each other's faces, but you don't ever have a conversation. Or you try not to, especially try not to, if you're at the mailbox or in the laundry room or whatever it is. So we're going to talk about how to start striking up conversations with people like that in just a few minutes. What about community associations? There can be organizations out in the community that you might belong to, things that you might like to do on your spare time, activities you might be involved in. I always like to mention this online group. It's called meetup.com. Have you guys heard of it? Meetup.com. Well, let me tell you how it got started, and then I'll tell you what it's about. Meetup.com is a way for people who share interests to get together. And it started back after 9/11. This man in New York saw all of his neighbors coming together after 9/11 happened because they were coming together to comfort each other through this. And then he saw that they continued to come together because they were breaking off into small groups of people who had found similar interests with each other. Like one group, maybe they like to go kayaking, and another group like to go to the movies or whatever it was. It could be anything. And so they started staying together because they were forming these groups and they would go out and do these things together that they all like to do. And so he thought, let me put up some sort of online system so that they can communicate with each other more easily. So that's how meetup.com got started. And 15 years later, it's this huge international, worldwide system that people use by the millions to get together with people who do something that they're also interested in doing. So anything you can think of, you can find a meetup group, or you can start a meetup group. So I encourage you to go online if you want to look up like IT professionals, things like that, and see if there's something within, a reasonable distance that you would commute to start to get to know people that work in the same line of work that you do. But you can also start, because it's a great place to network. They got like the book of the month club. It doesn't matter what you're interested in doing. Maybe you've had in the back of your mind for a while something you feel like you might like to start learning about or participating in. Look up a meetup group, see if there's one. If there's not, you can start one, but it's a place to go and be able to network also. There's also listed on here, well, we're going to get to professional affiliations in a minute. I'll wait until that. There's also religious associations. There's a lot of avenues now through different churches and different types of churches that they have different activities that you can, use in part to broaden your volume of people that you know, and you can network with those folks as well. Next is a health club. How often do people go to health clubs and they sort of check in and then they just go hang by themselves, do their workout, and go home? But we don't really talk to anyone, right? Sometimes we even try not to talk to anyone. But as we get this idea that I'm going to network today with at least one person, maybe it's going to be somebody at your health club. What about where you get your hair cut? What does that person, what is a barber, where you get your hair cut, what do they have all day long? All different kinds of people, right? All day long, they see all kinds of people, don't they? So you chat them up a little bit and let them know about you. And we're going to talk before we end today about getting your own business card made, giving some of those your business cards to some of these people that see a lot of people every day. You got them working on your behalf in your job search. What about You got a doctor's appointment coming up? Go to the doctor's office. You get in the habit of, what do we say to people like, hey, Jerome, how are you? Good. How are you? Fine, thanks. That's the end of it, isn't it? What about, hey, Jerome, how are you? Hey, I'm good. I'm about to graduate from school, learning how to work on computers. Hey, do you know about anybody that works on computers that I might be able to talk to about this new career I'm going into? That's it. It's light and simple, right? The words are just easy to say after you practice them a little bit, and you can go into the doctor. And the person at the front desk, what do they say? Morning, how are you? Please sign in. Thank you, how are you? You know, and then you give your 2 sentences about networking. What about going to the dentist? What about going to the eye doctor? What about your insurance agent? Who has car insurance? What does an insurance agent do all day? Yeah, that. But they talk to different people all day long, right? They got a wide network of people around them. So how impressed do you think that they could be if they've got this young man that's one of their clients calls them up and say, just finishing up school, learning how to work on computers, and I've made a list of people that I know out there in the world, and you're on it. You know, you just make it a little bit lighthearted, and you're on it. So I wanted to give you a call and ask you who you might know that works on computers that you might refer me to, that I could just talk to about this career. Not about getting a job, because sometimes people just put that wall up, you know, but talk to about starting in this career. That's a soft approach. It's like coming in the back door instead of bursting through the front door, okay? Next, bankers. You go to a bank. I belong to a little tiny credit union, and I'll tell you, I think the ladies, mostly ladies, that's why I say it, the ladies that work in that credit union, they know way too much stuff about everybody that comes in there because they talk. How are you? You know, how's your kids? All that kind of stuff. They get it. That's like they get information out of you that you never intended to give. But what do they see all day? All kinds of people. People that breathe, that could be contacts for you in your networking. So give them your speech. Oh, I'm great. Just about to finish up school, learning how to work on computers. Say, do you know anybody that works on computers that I might talk to learn about what's in front of me for this new career I'm about to start? Because they like to help. That's why they're in that sort of work, you know? Okay, family associates. These are people that within your family, other people they know. So what about people that your parents know or people that your uncle knows? You know, you go to your uncle, he's like, oh yeah, man, I know you're in school. How are you doing? Well, I'm doing great. I'm about to graduate, blah, blah, blah. Say, do you know anybody that works with computers? So you can use the same pitch for a lot of people, right? Do you have any stores you go to regularly or restaurants you go to regularly and somebody sort of knows your face and you know their face enough that you could network with them? All right. And usually what do we give them? The usual. Hi, how are you? Fine, thanks. How are you? Fine. Okay, good. The world is fine. Okay. So think of those folks too. Let them know because what do they see all day long? All different kinds of people. Chamber of Commerce. Every town, every city has a Chamber of Commerce. What's the focus of the Chamber of Commerce? To help build the business of the city, right? So the Chamber of Commerce, even though you might think, geez, I would never go to something like that. They got a lot of community involvement, and usually they have a meeting once a month, and usually at their monthly meeting, they have like a half hour that you get to network. It's set up. It's their networking part of their meeting. They usually have like little snacks. I don't know how old you guys are. They usually have drinks. Can't promote that if you're not 21 yet. I don't know how old you are. You look young to me. So you can go there. You get your little networking speech going. What? What? Oh, nothing. Okay. So you have your networking speech ready and you get to network with people. Are you going to meet people that work with computers in this day and age? Of course. So it's a great place, and you might even find something you're interested in as far as, volunteering or being a part of, and then you get to meet more people. Professional affiliations. Do you know of professional organizations related to your field of work? IT professionals? There are professional organizations out there. You can look online. You could put in IT professional organizations. See what comes up. Look at that. See if there's a chapter in this geographical area. Like one that comes to my mind is the IEEE for engineering, but people with technical backgrounds, those are all folks, all different types of organizations that you can be involved with. And so a couple things that most of these organizations offer is some sort of job search assistance, whether it's like, training stuff for your job search, or they might have a job board. They can have jobs posted there from all over the country that are in your field. A lot of times they have a monthly meeting, and you might have to pay like a small fee to join, like an annual fee. But at their monthly meeting, a lot of times the organizations have a networking time, like the first half hour of the meeting. If you want to, you can stand up, introduce yourself, tell, I'm about to finish school, just finished school, going into say what specifically you would like, and say I'd be interested in meeting anybody here in the room this evening after the meeting that might have some information that'll help me move forward in my new career. You don't have to say that could offer me a job, because that's going to rule most people out, right? But that could offer me some information to help me start out in my new career, because most people like to talk about themselves and most people like to talk about their work. So somebody will say, oh yeah, let me get over there and talk to him after this is over. All right, so I do encourage you really, really, really. I don't think that people really utilize professional affiliations that much and in this way. And then job search clubs. Okay, so we're here doing these workshops, but lots of places these days have workshop clubs, job clubs. And I say go to them, because those are people doing something similar to what you're doing. If there's one that you hear of, even though you may think, well, I'm going to the workshops at school and I got this binder, I don't really need to go because I don't need to hear that information again. But those are people that are doing something that you're doing. They're looking for work. And when they're out, they're making contacts and meeting people that could be helpful to you. They might meet somebody that wasn't helpful to them, but then they meet you and they think, oh man, I met this person last week. This would be a great contact for you. And then they tell you about it. So you share that way. All right, next page. This is a place that you can begin to keep a list of people that you network with, that you make contact with. So whether they're people from this initial list on the previous page, or people that you get connected to through the people that you identified on the previous page. So there's a column here to put their names, and then next their address and phone number, email address, and then over on the right you see this column for outcome. So you can use this in a couple of ways. Have you ever met somebody and then later on, for whatever reason, you think of them again, but then you sort of can't remember something about them that really helps you zero in on them? So make a note to yourself, something that helps you remember who they are. Maybe they told a certain joke and you thought it was funny, or you described something about their appearance or who they work for, something that will help you remember them. And then also the outcome is what you're going to do with this contact. Outcome that they gave you 2 referrals, or that you're going to call them back in a month. Maybe they said, well, I can't really think of anybody right now, but give me a call next week. I'll think about it. So there's your outcome. Call them back and then put the date. Something that I want to, just made myself think of it. When you are contacting people and networking, and maybe make a note of this, like either at the top of this page 4, your contact list, or on page 3, your network list. When you call people or you talk to people, always ask them for at least 2 referrals, okay? Not just say, can you refer me to someone else? That implies one person. Ask for a couple. Say, hey, can you refer me to a couple other people? Because why? You're trying to expand your base of people that you can network with. Number one. Number two, what if one person's hard to get a hold of? Then it makes that effort sort of dead in the water, right? So if you ask for a couple, at least you got another name or two extra to go on. All right, so let's look at page 5, and we're going to go through the parts of a network speech. And it's sort of like when we talked about writing a cover letter. It's like at first it seems daunting, right? Like, oh my gosh, I don't want to write those things. But once you realize that your basic cover letter is going to have 3 paragraphs, once you get paragraph 1 set up, it doesn't have to change that much except for that job title. And once you get paragraph 3 set up, doesn't have to change that much except for maybe a statement or two about following up. It's just the middle paragraph that you really have to deal with repeatedly because you got to tweak it according to the job that you're interested in. So I set this networking speech up, the format of it, into 3 pretty easy steps. And so step 1 is about making your connection with someone. And then step 2 is to tell about yourself. And then step 3 is to ask the closing question. I mean, you've gone through all this effort to talk about yourself and to get information, but you got to get in there and close the sale, right? So let's take a look on page 5 here at the first step, making your connection. So there's a couple ways you can introduce yourself. One is by saying, hi, this is, and then say your name, or hi, my name is. So hi, this is Cindy Zoeller, or hi, my name is Cindy Zoeller. Which one sounds a little less formal? Yeah, because it kind of gives maybe the hearer the idea that maybe you, like if you're calling into a company and you have a receptionist answer the phone and you say, hi, this is Cindy Zoeller, I'm calling for Steve Smith. It sounds a little more casual, right? She's probably has the feeling like, oh, it sounds like they might know each other. And maybe you have no idea who that is, right? So they can sometimes be a little more likely to go ahead and just patch you through without giving you 20 questions like, who are you? What are you calling about? Okay. But hi, my name is a definite giveaway that you two probably don't know each other at all. And they've been taught to screen through these calls. So just try it. You know, it's like everything else in the job search. You don't know what's going to work for you or when it's going to work for you, but at least you tried it. All right, so on here you see that we have choices, A or B or C. So let's take a look at each one of these. A is, these are all suggestions. You can change them up however suits the way you talk and feels the most comfortable for you. But A is a suggestion for making a connection with someone from the networking list that you made on page 3 here. And as you look at A, B, and C, you'll realize that the words hardly change. They stay similar all the way through. Hi, this is, I'm contacting you today to ask you for some assistance. Period. That's it. So easy. All of a sudden now that's got their attention, right? Their ears are kind of perked up. And I get behind on my slides. It's multitasking. I'm contacting you today to ask you for some assistance. That's it. I'm looking for a job, but maybe you're not looking for a job yet. Maybe you are networking and you're still a student. Then you would change your words up to say what? I'm currently in school, learning about working with computers. Or if you're getting to a more technical person, then you might say something more particular, right? And I'm hoping that you might be able to assist me. So now you've gotten through 2 statements and you haven't yet said anything about a job, right? So they don't have to be nervous. So you talk about some assistance, that they might be able to assist you. The type of work I'm looking for is, what are you going to say? Working with computers. Or again, huh? There you go. So it's just about practicing so that it comes out easily. Now, sample B here is making a connection with a referral. from someone on your networking list. So maybe you put your grandma down on your networking list and you ask her, Grandma, who do you know that works with computers? And she's given you a couple of names, right? And so on page 5 on B, it says, I have been referred to you by. So, hi, this is Cindy Zoeller. I have been referred to you by, I wouldn't say my grandma. I have been referred to you by whoever that is. I'm either looking for a job or I'm currently a student in school studying how to work on computers, and I'm hoping that you might be able to assist me. The type of work I'm looking for is as an IT specialist, whatever it is you're going to say, and you're done right there. Now, do you see the things on that page that are highlighted in gray where it says pause? I put that in there just as a reminder to take a breath after you say your part, take a breath and give that person a little space to make a response. They might just, they might grunt, or they might have something to say. All right, but you want to be able to let them speak for a moment, and so you can hear what they're going to say to you and you can respond to that. Because what happens sometimes, we just want to rush through our spiel because we feel awkward and we want to get it over with, right? We want to get from A to Z in about 10 seconds and be done. But we really want to have a conversation. So even though it doesn't feel like that's what we want, that is what we're aiming for. All right, so here's choice C. Maybe you're making a cold call, a cold connection with someone that you just happen to meet. It's an unplanned meeting. What are you going to say? Nobody's referred you to them. You can't say, "Oh, Sam referred me to talk to you." You can't say that because it didn't happen. So what do you say? What do we say when we're meeting someone outside the front of an elevator? Hopefully nothing, right? Truthfully, we hope to say nothing. We don't want to make eye contact, right? So, morning, morning. How are you? Good, thanks. How are you? If they even say back anything. How are you? Fine, thanks. Done. Done. D is for done. But let's revisit that. Morning, how are you? Fine, thanks. How are you? I'm great. I'm just about to finish up school. I've been learning how to work on computers. I don't need to say the rest because now you guys are probably like, oh, she only said that 20 times already. Okay. So, hey, maybe you'd be able to help me. Maybe you'd be able to assist me. You know anybody that works on computers? Know anybody that works in that field? So, once upon a time, it used to be really safe and feel okay to say, oh man, you need to talk to my buddy Joe, and here's their phone number, right? Not so much anymore. We don't even give out contact information anymore, do we? Unless we call our buddy and tell them first. So you got to handle it a little bit differently. Sometimes you will want to say, I mean, always try for that. And especially if you could let them know, like, hey, do you have a way I could get in touch with them at work? So it takes that personal side out. Like, you're not going to be calling their personal cell phone or stopping by their home address or something. Like, do you have a way I can get a hold of them at work? Or can you tell me who they work for? And I'll just call the company and ask for them. You know, you got to take that hesitation out of it. But again, you got to be practiced. You got to be ready to say something like that in order for it to come out of your mouth. Otherwise, it feels, I don't know, for me, that feels kind of awkward to say to somebody until I've practiced it a few hundred times sometimes, you know? So think of how would you handle something like that if you met somebody out in front of the elevator and you decided today, I'm going to network with one person. It's my goal. And it just happens to be you're at an elevator or at the bus stop or at the grocery store or sitting at the restaurant. So how do you get that stuff out of your mouth? I suggest that you write it all down, make a script for yourself like you're going to be in a play. Write it down, sort of finalize it until it sounds like you and you're comfortable with it, then practice it with someone else. You guys are in the same program here together. You can practice for 15 minutes a couple times a week for a while until you really feel good. You can look in the mirror, practice just talking to yourself in the mirror. Practice with me. There's a lot of options. So put your words together and get that part down as a practice. And we're going to do that in a minute. And then let's turn the page to page 6. And the next part of this is to tell me about yourself. Tell about yourself, sorry. So what type of work are you looking for? I want to encourage you to be really brief about it and use everyday language. Like I said, you guys can get kind of deep in your technical jargon, right? And you can talk to each other and you know what the heck you're talking about. But you talk to me and I don't know most of it. So if you wanted me to help, what's the most complex thing related to your schooling you can think about right this minute? Okay, so you say, well, do you know anybody that works with networks? Like you mean AT&T and T and Sprint, or so that's not really what you have in mind though, is it? No. So just making it more general, like everyday language that most every person is going to know, helps you have a wider gate and more people. You can bring more people in through that gate. Okay. So think about how you want to present that. And the next part is maybe you want to tell, maybe there are some very specific things that are important to you when you go into this new line of work. And so where it says next here, where I will have the opportunity to, maybe you want to tell like one or two, not 10, not 8, but one or two specific things that are really important to you that you want somebody to know about. Maybe if it's like a certain uh, industry, you know, that you want to work in. You want to go do your IT work, but in a certain industry. So maybe you do want to narrow it down. I encourage you initially not to narrow it down like that because you just want to meet people, first of all. Okay. So the third step here is ask the closing question. Basically, that's going in to close the sale, right? And that's asking, do you know someone? So what are you going to ask? Do you know someone who does that type of work? Yes. Whichever one feels more comfortable to you, whichever one more fits the moment or situation you're in. Okay. Okay, I totally get where you're coming from, and you don't ask it right away, but I want to give you a suggestion when you do ask it and why it could be valuable for you. What if they tell you, no, man, I don't know um, anybody that works with computers? And so then you say, all right, well, I thank you for thinking about that. Who else might you refer me to that might have an idea for me? You know, maybe they say, well, I got this buddy and it's like he knows everybody in town. He doesn't work with computers. He might not even know anything about computers, but this person thinks he knows a lot of people. So it's like it's goes back to that part where people like to help other people, but sometimes we have to tell people how they could help us. Okay. You could say, all right, well, I realize that that's not your thing, you know, working with computers. And then you think of, but you got to think of this before you go. What else could you ask a person if you were going to ask C? Well, who else might you know? You know anybody that seems like everywhere they go, they just know somebody? You got to put the idea in their head of what they could help you with. Do you know anybody that's like a manager at a company? Because everybody has IT at their company now, don't they? And if you could get to a manager and you can Google them and you find out exactly what they do, then you can go look at other pages for the same company or related to that person and you get an idea about what that company does. And you know they have IT people, and then you call this person whose name they gave you and you can tell them, I realize so-and-so referred me to you. It's always so nice to have a name to drop, right? So-and-so referred me to you, and they told me that although you don't work with computers, you're a great manager, or that you work at a great company, you know, just a little butter up there, you know. And I am finishing up school, and I've been learning how to work on computers, and so I wanted to give you a call because I thought maybe you could assist me. See, we're back to step one, right? I thought maybe you could assist me. So they may say, They may like you over the phone. They may like that initiative, and they say, well, you're right. I don't have anything to do with that department, but let me put you through to the manager of that department. Or why don't you go ahead and send me your resume and I'll forward it. Or if they say that, say, oh, that sounds great. Tell you what, I would really like to forward my resume to that manager. Will you give me the correct spelling of their name? You got to push through that objective, that objection rather. Okay. So there is a way you can use that one. It's part of practicing to be ready to do it because they're shutting down on you, right? Before you get to that point, and you want to keep that door open. So let's talk about how to keep your doors open with people that you network with. Have you ever, in your previous work experience, were you ever in a great hurry to get a job and you had a good interview, you sort of had something in mind, but it seemed like they were going slower than you? Like you're wondering, when are second interviews, or when are they going to make their decision, or when are they going to start somebody? Yeah, that's total hurry up and wait, huh? So one thing that can help make really a good strategy in your job search is to find ways to keep part of the process, the power in the job search process, so to speak. If this was like a tennis game, keep the power in your court. And one way is to keep your contacts open. And one way to do that when you're networking is to tell the person you're networking with, well, thank you for the suggestions that you've given me, or thank you for the names and numbers that you've given me. I'm going to go ahead and contact those people within the next couple of weeks, or in the next week, or tomorrow, or whatever you're going to tell them. Don't ever say tomorrow, because then tomorrow you wake up and you got a sore throat and your car won't start, and the last thing you feel like doing is making a contact with a referral that they've given you. So give yourself a few days or a week. But you say, I'm going to follow up with the information that you've given me, and then I'm going to get back to you. I'm going to let you know how it went. So now you've kept that door open, right? The door to being in contact with that person is not closed. You did not close it. So you keep it open, and then you get back to them when you said you would. Give them a call in a couple of weeks. Hey, I said I'd get back to you for the information you gave me, and I've done it. And this is how it went. It went great. Or, usually want to make sure that in some way you're telling them thank you and it went great. And because sometimes, the other person will walk away from the moment they spent with you and they'll think like, oh, that's a nice young man. I really like to try and help him. And then a couple days later, what? Another name pops into their mind, right? And they might think, oh, when he calls back, I'll tell them about so-and-so. Or they might think, oh, I want to be sure and tell them about so-and-so. But what happens? They get busy, they got a lot of stuff going on, and they have the best intention of telling you, but they don't get to it, or they forget. So you've kept that door open that you can keep coming back and forth through the door and keeping that contact warm, and you can go back to them again. All right, we're going to take a few minutes here, and on page 7, let you guys work on developing your networking speech, okay? So I do ask you to start filling in some stuff here, because, you've probably heard me say a few times now, statistically, people tend to keep working on things that, when you get together and you're talking about it the first time you start working on it, to really keep going on working on it. So this is a hypothetical situation for the moment. It's not going to be what you're going to say every time you network. So for this moment, think to yourself, how are you going to introduce yourself? Hi, this is, or hi, my name is, and fill that in on number 1 here on page 7. Okay? Do you want to borrow my pen? I'm going to toss it. Ready? Oh, I got caught on the chair. Good catch. Or was that a good throw? That was a crummy throw. It was a good catch. All right, then for the next step, choose on the page 5, choose from option A or B or C. Who are you going to, in this hypothetical setup, who are you going to be making a connection with? Somebody from that networking list on page 4, or a referral from your networking list, or are you going to just be making a cold contact with somebody? And I want to encourage you from page 3 to actually, you can even get a piece of notebook paper and you could start writing out names of people that you're going to get in touch with. That way you got a place to check it off. You know, like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to call one person every day. And you can check them off as you get through your list. Then that way that gives you feedback like, wow, look, I'm doing this. All right, on to step 2. The type of work that I'm looking for is, what are you going to say? How are you going to say it? Are you going to talk about I'm looking for work? It's going to be, depends on who you're contacting. Or are you going to use the more soft approach? I'm currently in school, learning about computers. Then you might say what specific area of work with computers. So what are you going to say? What words are the most comfortable to you? And then the second thing under number 2 is that where I will have the opportunity to, what is something that's really, really important to you in your coming line of work that you know, like something that could be a deal breaker, something that really would screen in a company you want to work for or a specific type of job that you want to do. And you just really want to make sure that people know about that when you're talking to them. Maybe there's something that is really specific to you. Keeping in mind that you're kind of balancing out, is it worth narrowing or limiting myself when I'm just meeting this person and talking to them? Oh, for example, there was a graduate from the IT program a while back, and he had like some project management experience in the IT area, and he also had some medical experience in his background. So he just really wanted to be more in the medical arena with his IT work from school. So that could be an example of where I will have the opportunity to, you know, continue working in the medical field. So he was kind of screening that for himself. And then if they say, oh, I don't know anybody in the medical field that does that, but, you know, then you can open that back up for yourself. But is there something in particular? Okay. And then on to step 3, do you know someone, what, that works in that field that might be able to assist me, that'd be interested in my background? You got lots of options. Depending on who you're contacting, what do you think in this hypothetical situation that you might say? It's like you're going to be in a play and you're writing the script right now. Then I'm going to ask you guys in a minute to share what you wrote. Oh no, what does that mean? I'm not asking that. Okay. Do you want to run it by us and we'll give feedback?
Sure.
Okay.
So this is Ricardo Ponce. I'm looking for a job and I'm hoping that you could assist me. The type of work I'm looking for is in information technology. where I will have the opportunity to use my education and pursue my passion. Do you know someone who could use someone with my background?
Okay. What's the part you weren't sure of?
I don't know, where I will have the opportunity to use my education and pursue my passion.
I
Do you
love
know anyone?
that
Okay.
because it is a very grounded idea these days about working in what you're passionate about. And I think that for me anyway, I don't know, when I hear somebody talk about their passion of something, it always catches my attention a little more because I want to know, like, oh, what is it that sparks your life? You know, what is it? Oh, what is that thing that's your passion? What do you love? I mean, that's the thing you would get up and go do even if you weren't being paid, right? Even if it was hail, sleet, and snow out there and all you had to wear was shorts and a t-shirt, you'd still go do it. And I think for a lot of people that work in technology, that is true. We have a person who just graduated from the Stockton campus in the bookkeeping program. 15 years she's been doing payroll. I mean, God bless her because we all want our paychecks, right? She loves payroll. Her whole face lights up when she talks about it. And I was like, I would like stab myself in the eye with my pen if I had to do payroll, you know? And I just watch her when she talks about it. And so finally I asked her about the third time she said that. I said, I believe you. I can tell on your face that you do. I said, what is it that, I mean, truly, I didn't know. What is it that you love about payroll? She says, oh, in my current job, every time it's time to do payroll, I have 500 employees to process payroll for in 2 days. She said, so that's my goal. It's like my mission to get 500 payroll processed for 500 people in 2 days. So she gets to do this marathon every 2 days, and it's her goal to get done. And she always succeeds, so she loves it. Good. So I love that you say that because it's what gives another layer of depth to you when you tell someone that.
Okay, so fine.
Sparks their interest, yeah. And then what's the next question going to be? What exactly about that is your passion? So you'll want to be ready to have an answer because that's like a strength. They're asking you about a strength now that you get to tell about. That's excellent. All right, so how do you finish off number 3?
Do you know someone who could use someone with my background?
Oh, your background. Yeah, you said that. Okay, excellent. Want to share or pass, Jerome?
I guess I can share.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Romanese. I would like to choose. I would choose who could use someone with my background. Type of work I'm looking for is computer support, computer IT, and support. And wherever I have the opportunity to acquire a job and start working where I can pursue my passion. Do you know some? Do you know someone who does that type of work?
Okay, good. Can you imagine yourself saying this to people that you basically don't know yet?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've done it before. It's just I don't do it in other job opportunities just because it's not really it's not really the type of thing I would say like for like Radio Shack or something. So it's something I like to do, but not something I would be passionate about.
Yeah.
So like I would say like if I was applying for like a legitimate like IT thing, that's something I would say for because it would work better there. It's like just Radio Shack thing, my personal opinion.
Okay. Uh, but that's like a targeted place you're going, right?
Yeah.
You have an idea in mind. I'm going to Radio Shack for this purpose. But thinking of just being out and meeting people, like if you walked out into the parking lot right here, and let's say somebody's out there and they're just hanging out having a smoke, and you don't know them, they're not a student here, maybe they're just walking around, and you decide, I'm going to network with that person, you know? So you start up a conversation. Hey, how are you? Beautiful day out here, huh? And they say, yeah, how are you? And you say, great, I go to school right here and I'm learning about computers, how to work on computers, work with computers, whatever is your natural way to speak, and say, you know anybody that works with computers that might be able to assist me? And they may say, what? Yeah, man, I do. Or, well, I got a buddy that works with computers. Hey, can you get me in touch with them? like through their company or something, you know, just making your conversation casual and not like desperate, like, oh man, I need a job, my bills are stacking up, you know, that sort of thing. You know, you just make it easy and see what you get. So I want to encourage you too, as you get ready to start your job search and start networking, which could be tomorrow, go to the dollar store, get yourself one of those little pads of paper, you know, the little spiral bound notebooks that fit in your pocket, and always have a pen or pencil with you. Because if somebody gives you a name and nobody's got nothing to write on or write with, then you're out of luck, right? So it's a good idea just to get in the habit of having like that little scratch pad, so you can take some notes real quick. So down at the bottom of page 7, if you'll look real quick, what does it say?
Remember to have a smile on your voice.
Yeah.
This with the smile in front of the mirror.
Yeah. So believe it or not, if you're calling somebody on the phone, they can tell if you're like feeling happy at the moment. So once upon a time when I had to do a really big job search when I moved from Arizona to California, I had this whole setup in front of me. I had my resume. I had a stack of 4x6 cards because every phone call I made looking for a job, I decided, what is my goal in making this phone call? I always had a goal because that helped me know what questions I was going to ask. It helped me know what information I was looking for and when I could hang up. And I had a mirror so that I could look in that mirror because it reminded me, just even seeing it, I didn't have to look in it, just seeing it out of the corner of my eye was like, oh yeah, you got to smile. Smile while you're sitting there at your dining room table all by yourself making those phone calls. Because what if you made 10 phone calls and none of them went anything positive for you? No good outcome that you're hoping for. Do you got a smile on your face? No, the corners of your mouth are dragging the floor. So you see the mirror and it reminds you to smile because people hear that in your voice, right? Believe it or not, sometimes even how we write an email can come across a different way, whether we're feeling up and positive or we're feeling down because things feel pretty negative. So it's just a reminder, easy way to remind yourself. All right, last page here, page 8. I want to encourage you guys to go and get your own business card made. Oh, what happened to that? Slides are done, but we're not. All right. So you see on page 8, have you heard of vistaprint.com? Okay. So I want to tell you to make a note on this page for yourself. It's Vista, V-I-S-T-A, print, one word, vistaprint.com. And you can make your own business cards there. You can go to Staples or somewhere like that, but it costs a lot more. Vistaprint most of the time has some sort of special going on, and you can get like 250 cards for $9.99 plus shipping and handling. So for like 15 bucks. If it's more than that, check another week. When it's around holiday times, they always have weekend sales. So for $15, like 250 cards, it used to be 15 bucks, you get 500. But in the last couple of years, it's gone. Card price, the card amount has gone down and the price has stayed the same. So you can make up your own card. It's really user-friendly. It's easy to do. They have a template you can follow. I just encourage you to get sort of a basic card because the more fancy things you add onto it, the more it drives up the price. But they have a card that has that flat look to it like this paper, matte, and then they have the one that's glossy, a little bit shiny. Then they have super glossy. Don't get the matte and don't get the super glossy. But do get the glossy. It looks a lot better when you hand it to somebody. Just has a better eye appeal, they say. So, and it's no extra charge. So here's an example of what you put on there. You just put your name, then put whatever you're going to call yourself. You're going to call yourself an IT specialist. What are you going to call yourself?
Computer IT technician.
Okay, there you go. What are you going to call yourself?
Yeah, I guess information technology technician.
Okay, so whatever you are going to call yourself, put it right under the name. I'd like you to think of putting a title. Yesterday in the workshop in Stockton, we were talking about, do you put words that tell what you want to do, like the function, or do you put the title? So the question was, should I put bookkeeping or bookkeeper? And I said, my suggestion is that you put bookkeeper because there's a lot that is a title that you're giving people versus the function of what you do. So then you put your contact information. You got a cell phone number you want to put on here and an email address. If you have a LinkedIn profile, or when you set up your LinkedIn profile, go ahead and put your LinkedIn profile address on there as well. Okay. And next week we're going to watch 2 videos on setting up a LinkedIn profile. It is the #1 way through the online method, which is not that successful, but it is the #1 way. It's really growing in popularity in job searching. So that's what we're going to learn about next week, okay? Do you have a LinkedIn profile up yet?
No.
Have you heard of LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Okay.
What if we just don't want a LinkedIn profile?
Oh, then don't do it.
Okay.
Does that mean you don't have to come next week?
No, I'll come and see. I'll check it out. But I've thought about it.
Yeah.
But I'm not real big on social media accounts.
Me either.
I found that it makes it waters down conversations because is what I say about them, because like I used to have a Facebook and I used to have like all my cousins and my friends on it, right?
Yeah.
Then we go out Friday night, and by Friday night the conversation just went, did you see this post? Did you see that post? Did you see this? We had nothing really to sit there and talk about.
You're right. My email's been down for like a few weeks.
I don't keep Facebook anymore. I'm like, sit there and tell me.
Me either. Yeah. My email's been down a few weeks and I haven't called because I have to call AT&T, and I would like shoot myself. I have to shoot myself every time I call them. And I haven't missed it. It's like, if you got something to tell me, call me and we'll talk about it. I'm very tempted to not start it back up again. But I totally get what you're saying. And LinkedIn is really moving toward being professional connections. So it's a way, you'll watch the videos and you see, then make your decision after that. If I can ask you to sort of hold off. I mean, it's different than Facebook, because it used to be people sort of got initially sort of were using LinkedIn like they use Facebook, you know, but it's really moved over to the professional side of life. And so let's watch those videos next week and then decide if you want to put one up or not based on being able to network with other technical people. Okay. All right. So down at the bottom, which is not shown on this sample card, you could put a line of information that has words, the keywords related to what you would like to do as an IT technician. Maybe there's I can't say that, some specifics. You know, maybe you want to put networks or LANs or whatever it is. You might put a line of words that can limit you a little bit, you know, if people only see that and they think that's it. So it's that, again, that's that balance. Is it worth putting on there because it helps bring things into me? Or maybe do I want to leave those specifics off because it makes me have a more open, wide door and I can draw more people in? Okay. But that's a personal decision that you can make. So just get a card. It can either be, you can choose, I would say choose like soft colors. Don't try to get all so fancy, you know, just have a nice basic card. And when you meet people and you do a little networking, even if you don't really do your networking speech with them, you could say, hey, you know what? I have a card. I'm going to give you my card. I'm just about to finish up school and I've been learning how to work on computers. And if you run into anybody that works on computers and you give them my card and they call me, I sure would appreciate it. Or you can tell them, oh, hey, I'd like to give you my card. By the way, I'm getting ready to start my job search. Do you know anybody? You could turn it around into your spiel. Okay. So if you go and get a card, which I hope you will, maybe like in the next week or two, get them made and ordered. They send them to you pretty quickly. Then I would like to have one if you get it done. Do you already have some, Ricky? No? Okay. And it's a great tool. Let's say you get online and you go to meetup.com and you find something you want to get involved with. There's your card. It's got your name. It's got your contact phone number on it. Somebody can get in touch with you, so you can hand it out in other situations as well. And it just, oh, wow, just happens to have your future work information on it as well. And you can always just, maybe you're meeting someone and it's more of a social situation. And you can say, well, let me give you, hey, I have a card here. Let me give you my card. It's got my name and my phone number on it. And then you hand it to them. You go, oh, by the way, that's the sort of work that I do or that I'm getting ready to do. Hey, do you know anybody who works with computers? So you can turn it over into that. Okay. So if you want to practice that kind of stuff, let me know and we'll practice it. Okay. All right. That's a wrap. Next week, we'll do the LinkedIn stuff. And then the following week, we will be on to mock interview. Okay. Did you guys have your cake, graduation cake? Yeah. Okay. I saw everyone's having chocolate, huh?
Yeah, I really wanted the chocolate.
Chocolate talks.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Hope you have a good rest of the day.